Can you see the slides?
Coming now.
I can, that's perfect.
Come.
5 of 12, that one is.
Okay. So I'm just trying out if I can move these slides, and it said sync to presenter live.
Right,
So
very interestingly, I'm seeing two different things on the two devices I'm seeing. So on my iPad, Claudia, I can see,
okay.
I think, your first slide.
Okay. So John-Sebastian, it might be good if you then move the slides because you put them up.
I can see the first one on both now. That's great. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. I would like to start us off. So my name is Claudia Weber, and I'm here with my colleague, Dr. John-Sebastian Schutter, and we both work for the Global College here at Heriot Watt University. We want to talk to you this afternoon about a small research project we've done on the use of academic posters as a form of assessment in higher education. So the reason we became interested in posters is because we're both teaching on EAP, on foundation and pre-master's programs. And since posters are widely used within the scientific community, they were integrated in the pre-master's program as an assessment. When we were actually assessing the students, the assessment didn't go as well as we had hoped because it ended up as a weird hybrid situation somewhere between a traditional PowerPoint presentation and a poster session, while being really neither. So it felt very inauthentic. And since our job as EAP lecturers is our job to prepare students for different degree programs and manage their expectations of what kind of assessment they would encounter in these programs, we thought we could do better there. And the idea came to do a bit of a needs analysis and sit down with lecturers from different departments to see what their experience on using posters as a form assessment is like. Who's using posters? Why are they using it? And so forth. Since we're both working for the Global College with a fairly new department in Edinburgh, it has existed in Malaysia, but it's new in Edinburgh, we thought it would be also a great opportunity to build some relationships and get our name out there to the wider colleagues within the universities in the different departments. So we started before we sat down with the lecturers, we decided to look at some of the literature. So what research is out there on assessment in higher education in general and posters more specifically. So the first one we have, I would like to mention Summers, who lists a number of criteria that assessment in higher education has to meet. So in addition to the usual fairness and reliability criteria, which are widely discussed, what we found interesting here is that assessment also should be efficient and usable by lecturers. So very pragmatic reasons that were mentioned here. And these aspects are far less frequently discussed in the literature than reliability and validity of assessments. Now moving on to posters assessments in particular, here I would like to mention Angelov, who looked at, and this goes nicely with the theme of this conference on the multimodality within higher education assessments and posters in particular. And they were arguing that posters are a great way to tackle issues with academic integrity. So because not only do the researcher has to present their information in a clear and coherent and scientific sound way on the poster in a written format, they also then in the session need to be able to communicate this to the their colleagues and the visitors and participants of these sessions. So we have written as well as spoken communication here. And if the students were not able to talk about their subject in depth, about the research in depth that they had written about, it would become quite apparent that they wouldn't have done the research themselves. So here the speaking part helps to ascertain if the student has done the work themselves. Now we want to move on to the next two pieces of research. So we have Mercante and Herrero, and we also have D'Angelo. Both talk about the strength of posters, and not only do they improve set communication skills, but they're also a great way of building other competencies. Research skills being a more obvious one, but also problem solving, critical thinking. We have independent autonomy work, the creativity, selecting information. All this is incorporated in producing a poster, and it's a great practice opportunity of those skills. While these researchers focus on the positive aspects of using posters as a higher education assessment, we can't forget about McIntosh Murray, who discusses the challenges of using posters as a form of assessment. Because of its very hybrid nature, the multimodal nature of posters, they can actually, in the poster being standalone, is kind of a difficult thing to do well as an assessment. This is particularly, we like this aspect because this is a very situation we found ourselves in. How do you do poster assessments well? So as I said, we came up with the idea of sitting down with different lecturers from different departments to see what they're actually doing, because we wanted to see how best we can prepare our students when they go and enter these schools and these departments. We contacted 33 of them about from the different departments. So we have social science, engineering, business school, math and computing, among others here. But these were the other major schools. Only half of them replied. And we got a number of rejections or responses, rather, where lecturers, specifically from the math department, saying, we're not using posters at all. So that tells us something already. But we did manage to sit down with 6 lecturers from the science departments of engineering, chemical engineering, astrophysics, and actuarial sciences, and conduct one-to-one interviews with them. These were recorded and then were analyzed. The transcripts of these interviews were analyzed and see if we could identify any commonalities, any reoccurring themes. This is what John-Sebastian now will tell you more about in the next section.
Thank you, Claudia. Yes, so as Claudia mentioned, we did some interviews with 6 lecturers. These interviews were then auto-transcribed using transcription software, but were manually checked by us for accuracy afterwards, where we matched up the transcription with the audio. Upon analyzing the discourse, the following 10 themes: academic integrity, engagement, critical thinking, convenience, scaffolding, research skills, group work, organizational skills, communication skills, and subject knowledge were identified. These are the ones labeled here on the left-hand side on this slide. Now, on the right-hand side of the slide, it shows you what it means in terms of poster assessment. So we found that these themes were emerging in the interviews, and by and large, this study is qualitative, I should mention, but we try to quantify it in a certain way on the next slide to see how many times these were referenced in the interviews. So as you can see, of these 10 emerging themes, there were 3 of them that were referenced many more times than others. And these are the ones in red on the slide. So engagement. So that means posters is a more engaging type of form of assessment. Convenience. So that means posters as a more convenient form of assessment. And organizational skills, meaning posters as a means of developing organizational and time management skills among the students. So the following slides will show you, will exemplify these with some quotes from the lecturers. So as for a more engaging type of assessment, this meant that the posters can lead to more engagement, interaction from the students, but also more interaction with the lecturers and engagement in the wider community outside academia, which is exemplified by the last quote on this slide. So I'll give you a few seconds to read the quotes. Now, these were all on the topics of posters as being a more engaging type of assessment. The other one I mentioned earlier before was posters as a more convenient type of assessment. All the lecturers agreed, the ones that we interviewed, that marking posters was quicker and easier than more conventional assessments, such as, for example, essays. And as can be seen from these quotes. And I'll give you a little bit of time to read through the quotes. And then finally, the theme that was also mentioned or came across a lot between our lecturers was the organizational themes. Sorry, and that was that could be interpreted as lecturers being happy to leave it up to students to organize how they want to produce a poster, or what would appear on the poster, who to work with, and or divide labor amongst possible team members, and finally how to manage the time in meeting the deadline for the poster production, and or how to organize the interaction or the presentation of the poster. So there are a bit more quotes on this one, so I'll give you a little bit of time to read through them. So as Claudia will continue with the discussion, this is still work in progress, but these were the 3 most commonalities found in the interviews that we found so far. Over to you, Claudia.
Thank you, John-Sebastian. So it became clear pretty quickly that the main reason for choosing posters were very pragmatic in nature, because they were easy to mark, reduce the workload, and because they were easy to set up. And this is very much in line what the research was saying, that assessment needs to be efficient. Assessment needs to be usable. Assessment needs to be can't create a burden on the instructor. So, and this is one of the reasons that we found as well, that our interviews views completely were in line with what the research was saying. Another reason why lecturers like posters is because they offered varieties. For example, we had the chemistry lecturer who was saying they do lab report after lab report after lab report, and then they do a poster. And because it's so different, the engagement and the student feedback was quite high. So what lecturers tend to look for is the active engagement. So while students, so as long as students engage with the topic, and showed good quality science, as long as they engaged with the group, if it was a group assignment, and then they engaged with the audience, then they did very well in that assessment. And the overwhelming feedback was also very positive. So engagement was important, the active participation, so the active learning. This is again what the research was saying, letting the students figure it out on their own with the instructors being facilitators, and the students selecting the content, finding the research, solving the problems that come up. These are all the competencies that were mentioned in the literature, why posters are so beneficial. What surprised us is that academic integrity was absolutely not a criteria for choosing posters as an assessment. As EAP professionals, this came as a surprise to us because we teach our students referencing skills and make sure that this is all, you say where it's from and all that. However, this is in contrast to what Angelov was saying, that posters are chosen because they tackle issues with plagiarism. This is, however, not what we found. This could be interpreted in a way that because they're choosing posters, they don't, and their plagiarism would be obvious, they don't have issues with plagiarism in using posters. So here if you follow me there, it was more important that students engage with the topic, show good quality research, and become involved in the project rather than the issues of plagiarism, which kind of, because of the type of assessment, took care of itself. This is what we have found out so far. As John-Sebastian mentioned, this study isn't finished. As I've mentioned, we only sat down with 6 lecturers, and this is not enough because none of the lecturers was from the business school. We have a lot of students joining business degrees, and therefore to have this have any meaning and any implications for our assessment design, we simply need to collect more data. And therefore, we don't have a conclusion yet. So this is where we would like to finish and open up the floor for any questions. Thank you very much. So here we are of our references. So that's where we are. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John-Sebastian. Thank you, Claudia. Just going to take a look at the Padlets and see if we have any questions there already. One question so far. In the various departments that responded, are the posters assessed in their own right as academic or research posters, or in combination with the poster creators explaining their research, their project or whatever orally, while using the poster as a visual support and perhaps responding to questions from their audience? So yeah, were the posters simply visuals, or did the students have to talk about their posters, introduce them to an audience and answer questions? Thanks. By the way, shall I stop recording? I'll do that.
Thanks, Chris. So there is well, both actually. To answer that question, we had